The words hit me like a fist to the chest. I think we should take a break. Sarah's voice was soft, almost tender, but her eyes darted to the floor, avoiding mine. We stood in her cramped apartment kitchen, the air thick with the scent of burnt coffee and the faint hum of the fridge. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out the distant city traffic. I opened my mouth, but all that came out was a weak, okay. Her ex, Daniel, had moved back to town that week. I didn't mention it. Neither did she. I leaned against the counter, the cold edge biting into my palms. My mind raced, replaying her words, searching for the crack in her tone that might betray her. Was it hesitation? Guilt? Or just exhaustion? We'd been together 2 years. 2 years of late-night talks, shared playlists, and her head resting on my chest as we watched old movies. Now her arms were crossed, her shoulders hunched, as if shielding herself from me. The kitchen clock ticked louder than it should have, each second stretching the silence between us. Why? I finally asked, my voice rough, like I'd swallowed gravel. She shifted, her sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. I just need space, Ethan. To figure things out. Her words were vague, slippery, like she was handing me a puzzle with half the pieces missing. I wanted to press her, to demand what things meant, but the look in her eyes, distant, almost pleading, stopped me. I nodded, grabbed my jacket, and walked out, the door clicking shut behind me like a gunshot. Outside, the autumn air stung my face, sharp with the scent of damp leaves and exhaust. The city pulsed around me, honking cabs, flickering streetlights, strangers brushing past. But I felt untethered, like I was falling through the cracks of my own life. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Sarah. I'm sorry. It's not you. I stared at it, the words blurring as my eyes burned. Not me? Then who? Daniel's face flashed in my mind, his smug grin. The way he'd always lingered too long when he dropped by to pick up old stuff during our first year together. I walked aimlessly, my boots scuffing the uneven sidewalk. Memories clawed at me. Sarah laughing at my terrible cooking, her fingers tracing circles on my arm. The way she'd whisper my name in the dark. But other images crept in. Her phone lighting up at odd hours, her sudden work dinners. The way she'd started locking her screen when I walked into the room. Small things I'd brushed off, rationalized as paranoia. Now they glowed like embers, threatening to ignite. By the time I reached my apartment, my hands were trembling. I poured a glass of whiskey, the liquid sloshing against the sides as I sank onto the couch. My phone sat on the coffee table, taunting me. I wanted to call her, to beg for answers, but pride, or maybe fear, kept my fingers still. Instead, I scrolled through our old texts, searching for clues. A month ago, she'd sent me a heart emoji at 2 a.m. 2 weeks ago, she'd canceled plans, claiming a headache. Last week, she'd mentioned Daniel in passing. He's back in town, got a job downtown. Her tone had been casual, but now it felt like a warning I'd missed. The next morning, I woke with a headache and a gnawing ache in my chest. Work was a blur, numbers on spreadsheets, colleagues' voices fading into static. All I could think about was Sarah. I needed to know. Not just suspect, no. So I did something I'd never done before. I checked her social media. Her posts were sparse, mostly coffee shop photos and vague quotes about change. But Daniel's profile was a different story. A new photo, posted yesterday. Him at a bar, leaning close to a woman whose face was just out of frame. Her hair, though long chestnut, curled at the ends, looked too familiar. My stomach twisted. I told myself it could be anyone. I told myself I was overreacting. But by evening, I was back at her apartment building, standing across the street like some cliché from a bad movie. The air was colder now, the sky bruised with dusk. Her window glowed, a soft yellow square against the brick. I didn't know what I was looking for, maybe a glimpse of her, maybe proof I was wrong. Then I saw it. 2 silhouettes moving behind the curtain. One was Sarah, her posture unmistakable. The other was broader, taller. They stood close, too close, their shadows merging for a moment before pulling apart. My breath caught, sharp and painful. I wanted to storm up there, to pound on the door and demand the truth. But my feet stayed rooted, heavy as lead. What would I even say? Accuse her? Beg her? The uncertainty was a blade, slicing through every thought. I turned and walked away, The city swallowing me whole. Days bled into each other. I avoided her calls, her texts, each one a mix of apologies and vague promises to talk soon. I didn't trust myself to respond without breaking. Instead, I pieced together fragments. A mutual friend mentioned seeing Sarah and Daniel at a cafe, catching up. Another said she'd seemed distracted lately. Not herself. Each detail was a splinter under my skin, sharp and impossible to ignore. Then one night, she showed up at my door. Her eyes were red, her hair messy, like she'd been running her hands through it. "Ethan, please," she said, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I let her in, my heart pounding, torn between hope and dread. She sat on the edge of my couch, twisting her fingers together. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she started, and my blood ran cold. She didn't say his name, but she didn't need to. She talked about feeling lost, about old feelings resurfacing, about how she'd seen Daniel, just to talk, and it spiraled. "I didn't cheat," she insisted, but her voice wavered, and her eyes wouldn't meet mine. "It's just complicated." "Complicated?" I echoed, my voice low, dangerous. "You told me you needed space, Sarah. The same week he came back. And now you're here, telling me it's complicated?" My hands clenched, nails biting into my palms. I wanted to believe her, to cling to the version of her I'd loved. But the truth was a shadow, creeping closer with every word she didn't say. She cried then, her shoulders shaking, and part of me wanted to hold her, to erase the distance between us. But another part, the part that had seen those silhouettes, that had felt the weight of her half-truths, knew better. "Did you sleep with him?" I asked, the words tasting like ash. She froze, her breath hitching. "No," she whispered, but it was too soft, too late. The silence that followed was louder than any confession. I didn't yell. I didn't throw her out. I just stood there, staring at the woman I thought I knew, as the world I'd built around her crumbled. "Get out," I said finally, my voice hollow. She left, her footsteps fading down the hall. The twist came a week later, in a text from Daniel himself. "She didn't tell you, did she? It wasn't just me. She's been seeing someone else too." Attached was a screenshot. A message from Sarah to another man, time-stamped months ago, full of words she'd never said to me. The betrayal wasn't just Daniel. It was a web intricate and deliberate, spun long before she'd asked for a break. I sat in the dark, my phone glowing, and realized the woman I'd loved had been a stranger all along.